The bustling human colony of Eridanus was a thriving hub of activity, home to millions of people from all walks of life. At the heart of the colony stood the towering spires of the orbital shipyard, where Samantha, a young and talented engineer, dedicated her days to designing and maintaining the advanced spacecraft that facilitated travel and trade across the galaxy. Samantha's life was a comfortable one. She enjoyed a close-knit community, a loving family, and work that challenged and fulfilled her. Though she often yearned for the adventure that lay beyond the colony's borders, she was content in the knowledge that her skills contributed to the greater good of humanity's expansion into the stars. One morning, as Samantha made her way to the shipyard, the tranquility of Eridanus was shattered by a series of earth-shattering explosions. Panicked screams filled the air as the colony's defense grid failed, leaving the population vulnerable to a relentless barrage of laser fire and missile strikes from an unseen enemy. Samantha's heart raced as she sought shelter, her mind reeling with the realization that her home was under attack. She watched in horror as the distinctive silhouettes of Galactic Council warships materialized in the sky, raining destruction upon the helpless colony below. The Galactic Council, a powerful alliance of alien civilizations that had long sought to contain the growth of humanity, had finally made their move. Their forces showed no mercy, obliterating residential blocks, commercial centers, and vital infrastructure with ruthless efficiency. Samantha could do nothing but bear witness as the once thriving colony descended into chaos and ruin. As the bombardment continued, Samantha managed to make her way to a nearby shelter, where she found her family huddled in fear. Her father, a seasoned military veteran, held her close, his eyes reflecting the same mix of anguish and determination that Samantha herself felt. "They're here, just as we feared," he whispered, his voice raw with emotion. "The Council has come to extinguish our light." Samantha clung to her father, her mind racing with 1,000 questions. Why had the Galactic Council chosen to strike now? What had humanity done to provoke such a devastating attack? And most importantly, how could they possibly hope to survive the onslaught? As the hours passed, the shelling gradually subsided, replaced by an eerie silence that only served to heighten the tension. Samantha and her family emerged from the shelter, their hearts heavy with the weight of the devastation that surrounded them. Across the colony, the scene was one of unimaginable carnage. Charred and crumbling buildings, the twisted wreckage of spacecraft, and the lifeless bodies of countless innocent civilians, the haunting aftermath of the Galactic Council's ruthless assault. Samantha felt a surge of anguish and fury as she surveyed the destruction. This was no mere skirmish. It was a calculated act of genocide, a deliberate attempt to erase the human presence from this corner of the galaxy. And in that moment, a steely resolve took hold within her. "They will pay for this," she vowed, her voice trembling with a mixture of grief and determination. "I will make them pay." With that, Samantha turned her back on the ruins of her home and set out to uncover the truth behind the Galactic Council's attack, her path now irrevocably altered by the events that had unfolded on this fateful day. The once vibrant colony of Eridanus lay in ruins, its streets littered with the broken bodies of the fallen. Samantha, her heart heavy with grief, made her way through the devastation, her mind consumed by a single relentless question: why? As she navigated the shattered remains of her home, Samantha encountered countless others who shared her anguish and thirst for answers. Together, they began to piece together the grim reality of the Galactic Council's attack, uncovering a disturbing pattern of similar assaults on human colonies across the galaxy. Determined to uncover the truth, Samantha knew she could not act alone. She set her sights on the heart of the Galactic Council's power, the capital planet of Uxor, where the governing bodies of the alien alliance convened. The journey to Uxor was arduous and fraught with danger. Samantha knew that she would be venturing into the very lair of those responsible for the massacre, but the weight of her grief and the need for justice propelled her forward. Along the way, Samantha encountered Dax, a grizzled veteran of a previous conflict with the Galactic Council. Dax, his own wounds still fresh from the horrors he had witnessed, was initially reluctant to get involved. But Samantha's unwavering determination and the raw pain in her eyes slowly chipped away at his resolve. "I've seen the Council's cruelty firsthand," Dax admitted, his voice tinged with a haunted sorrow. "They won't stop until they've extinguished every trace of humanity." Recognizing the gravity of the situation, Dax agreed to accompany Samantha on her quest for answers and retribution. Together, they braved the treacherous paths that led to the heart of the Galactic Council's domain, their resolve hardening with each step. As they approached the capital planet, Samantha and Dax were met with a daunting sight. The skies above Uxor were alive with the activity of Council warships, their formidable defenses guarding the seat of the Alien Alliance's power. Undeterred, Samantha and Dax sought out the help of a network of human informants, each with their own griefs and reasons for opposing the Galactic Council. Through their contacts, they began to uncover the depth of the Council's machinations, a vast conspiracy that extended far beyond the destruction of Eridanus. The revelations were shattering. The Council, it seemed, had been systematically eliminating human settlements across the galaxy, all under the guise of maintaining order and protecting the balance of power. The true extent of their atrocities was staggering, and Samantha felt her resolve harden with each new piece of evidence. As they delved deeper into the Council's activities, Samantha and Dax realized that they were not the only ones seeking answers in retribution. Across the human colonies, a growing movement of resistance was taking shape, its members driven by the same burning desire for justice that consumed Samantha. With this knowledge, Samantha and Dax knew that their next move would be a pivotal one. They had to find a way to unite these disparate voices, to channel the righteous anger of humanity into a force that could stand against the might of the Galactic Council. The stakes had never been higher, and the path forward was fraught with peril. But Samantha was undaunted. She had come too far, sacrificed too much, to turn back now. With Dax at her side, she steeled herself for the battles to come, determined to uncover the truth and ensure that the Galactic Council's reign of terror would come to an end. As Samantha and Dax delved deeper into the Galactic Council's activities on Uxor, the full scale of the Alien Alliance's atrocities began to unfold before them. What they uncovered was a chilling conspiracy that shook the very foundations of their beliefs. The Council, it seemed, had been orchestrating a systematic elimination of human colonies across the galaxy, all under the guise of maintaining order and preserving the balance of power. From the destruction of Eridanus to the countless other settlements that had been wiped off the map, the pattern was undeniable. Samantha's heart burned with a fury she had never known. The realization that her home and her people had been deliberately targeted enraged her, fueling her determination to uncover the truth and ensure that the Council's reign of terror came to an end. "They'd been deceiving us all along," she said, her voice trembling with a mixture of grief and righteous anger. "This was never about maintaining order. It was about exterminating us, one colony at a time." Dax, his own past experiences with the Council's cruelty lending weight to Samantha's words, nodded grimly. "We have to find a way to stop them before they can complete their twisted plan." Driven by their shared sense of purpose, Samantha and Dax set out to rally the remaining human colonies, determined to unite their voices in a collective cry for justice. The task was daunting, for the Council's influence stretched far and wide, and many were still skeptical of the scale of the threat they faced. But Samantha and Dax were relentless. They traveled to the furthest reaches of human-occupied space, sharing the harrowing truth they had uncovered and calling on their fellow citizens to stand firm against the Galactic Council's tyranny. Their message resonated with some, igniting a spark of hope and determination in the hearts of those who had long felt powerless in the face of the Alien Alliance's might. Others, however, remained unconvinced, their faith in the Council's promises of peace and stability still too strong to be shaken. As the debate raged on, a faction of hardliners began to emerge, led by a former military commander named Harlan. Convinced that diplomacy was a futile endeavor, Harlan advocated for a more aggressive approach, one that would see humanity rise up and strike back against the Council with overwhelming force. Samantha and Dax found themselves caught in the crossfire of this growing divide, struggling to maintain their own vision of a peaceful resolution, even as the call for retaliation grew ever louder. They knew that the path they had chosen was a perilous one, but they were unwilling to abandon it, for the stakes had never been higher. The future of humanity hung in the balance, and Samantha was determined to ensure that it would not be snuffed out by the Galactic Council's ruthless ambitions. With Dax at her side, she pressed on, her resolve hardening with each passing day, as she prepared to confront the alien alliance at the heart of its power. As the debate over how to respond to the Galactic Council's atrocities raged on, Samantha and Dax found themselves at the center of a growing divide within the human colonies. While some listened to their calls for a diplomatic solution, others were increasingly drawn to the more aggressive rhetoric of the hardliners, led by the former military commander, Harlan. Harlan's message was one of uncompromising defiance. He argued that the time for negotiation had long since passed, and that the only way to stop the Council's relentless campaign of destruction was to meet their violence with an overwhelming display of force. "The Council has shown us their true face," Harlan proclaimed, his words resonating with those who had lost loved ones in the attacks. "They will not be swayed by empty promises or meek pleas for mercy. The only language they understand is that of unrestrained power." Samantha listened to Harlan's impassioned rhetoric with a growing sense of unease. While she shared his outrage and desire for justice, she feared that his call to arms would only serve to escalate the conflict, potentially leading to even greater loss of life. "Violence begets violence," she argued, her voice firm but tinged with the weight of her own grief. "If we answer the Council's cruelty with our own, we risk becoming no better than they are. We must find another way, one that preserves our humanity even in the face of such darkness." But Harlan and his followers were unwavering, their thirst for vengeance overriding any concerns about the consequences of their actions. As the tensions mounted, Samantha knew that she had to find a way to bridge the divide, lest the human colonies tear themselves apart from within. Turning to Dax for guidance, Samantha sought to uncover a path forward that could unite the disparate factions. Dax, his own experiences shaping his perspective, cautioned against the impulsive use of force, but acknowledged the urgency of the situation. "The Council has shown us that they will not hesitate to strike again," Dax said, his weathered features etched with a deep, weary sorrow. "We must act, but we must do so with wisdom and foresight, lest we doom ourselves to the same fate as Eridanus." Inspired by Dax's words, Samantha set out to forge alliances with the more moderate voices within the human colonies, hoping to find common ground and a collective strategy to confront the Galactic Council. It was a daunting task, fraught with the risk of further division and conflict, but Samantha was determined to succeed. As she traveled from one colony to the next, Samantha encountered a diverse array of perspectives and experiences. Some were eager to join the fight, their anger and sense of betrayal fueling their desire for retribution. Others, still scared by the horrors they had witnessed, were more cautious, their faith in the possibility of peace wavering. It was in this delicate and volatile atmosphere that Samantha and Dax worked tirelessly to craft a plan of action, one that would leverage the full might of the human colonies while avoiding the trap of uncontrolled escalation. They knew that the stakes had never been higher, and that the path ahead would be fraught with peril. But with each passing day, their resolve only grew stronger, for the future of their species hung in the balance. As Samantha and Dax worked tirelessly to forge a united front against the Galactic Council, the tensions within the human colonies continued to simmer. Harlan and his hardline faction were increasingly impatient, their calls for immediate and uncompromising retaliation growing louder with each passing day. Recognizing the mounting pressure, Samantha and Dax knew they had to act quickly. They convened a meeting with the leaders of the various human colonies, imploring them to put aside their differences and rally behind a coordinated strategy. "The Council has shown us that they will not stop until they have destroyed us all," Samantha said, her voice laced with a sense of urgency. "We must stand together, or we will surely fall." To Samantha and Dax's relief, the majority of the colony leaders were receptive to their appeal. They understood the gravity of the situation and the need for a unified response. However, Harlan and his supporters remained unconvinced, their faith in the power of brute force unshaken. "Diplomacy has failed us," Harlan declared, his eyes burning with a fierce determination. "It's time we showed the Council the true might of humanity. We will strike them at their very core and make them pay for their atrocities." Samantha and Dax tried to reason with Harlan, cautioning him about the risks of such a reckless course of action. But their pleas fell on deaf ears, as Harlan and his followers had already set their sights on a series of devastating strikes against the Council's key installations and outposts. Sensing that they could no longer control the situation, Samantha and Dax reluctantly stepped aside, knowing that any attempt to intervene would likely be met with fierce resistance. They could only watch in trepidation as Harlan and his forces launched their attacks, unleashing a fury that sent shockwaves through the Galactic Council's ranks. The Council's response was swift and unforgiving. Their warships descended upon the human colonies with a vengeance, raining destruction upon the settlements that had dared to defy their authority. Samantha and Dax found themselves caught in the crossfire, their initial hopes of a diplomatic solution now shattered. As the war between humanity and the Galactic Council escalated, the casualties mounted on both sides. The human colonies fought with a desperate ferocity, fueled by the memory of the atrocities committed against their kin. But the Council's technological superiority and sheer numbers proved a formidable challenge, and the human forces found themselves slowly being overwhelmed. Amidst the chaos, Samantha and Dax searched for a way to broker a ceasefire, to bring the conflict to a halt before it consumed them all. But their efforts were repeatedly thwarted as Harlan and his followers continued to push for ever more aggressive actions, and the Council refused to entertain any negotiation. The situation had spiraled out of control, and Samantha felt a growing sense of despair. She had come so far, sacrificed so much, only to watch helplessly as her people were ground down by the relentless might of the Galactic Council. But even in the face of such overwhelming odds, she refused to give up, her determination fueled by the memory of those she had lost. As the battle raged on, Samantha knew that she and Dax would have to take drastic measures if they were to have any hope of stopping the carnage. With time running out, they began to formulate a plan that would take them to the very heart of the Galactic Council's power, a plan that would either secure a lasting peace or plunge humanity into the abyss. As the war between humanity and the Galactic Council raged on, Samantha and Dax found themselves caught in the midst of a harrowing conflict that threatened to consume them all. The human colonies, battered by the relentless onslaught of the Council's forces, fought with a desperate ferocity, fueled by a thirst for vengeance and a determination to secure their freedom. Yet, even as the battle lines were drawn, Samantha and Dax remained steadfast in their efforts to broker a ceasefire, to find a path to peace that would spare their people from further devastation. But their pleas for negotiation were repeatedly met with stubborn refusal from the Council, whose leaders remained unwavering in their commitment to the total subjugation of the human race. Frustrated by the Council's intransigence and the growing divide within the human colonies, Samantha and Dax knew that they had to take drastic action if they were to have any hope of stemming the tide of violence. Gathering their most trusted allies, they began to formulate a plan that would carry them to the very heart of the Council's power. A bold and risky gambit that might just be the key to ending the conflict once and for all. As they delved deeper into the Council's operations, Samantha and Dax uncovered a web of deceit and corruption that stretched far beyond the initial attacks on the human colonies. The true extent of the Council's atrocities was staggering, a testament to the ruthlessness and cunning of their adversaries. "They've been planning this for years," Dax murmured, his weathered features etched with a mixture of rage and disbelief. "Systematically eliminating us, one colony at a time, all while maintaining the facade of peace and cooperation." Samantha's heart burned with a fury that threatened to consume her, but she knew that they could not afford to be consumed by their emotions. They had to remain focused, to devise a plan that would not only expose the Council's crimes, but bring about a lasting resolution to the conflict. With the help of their allies, Samantha and Dax set out to infiltrate the Galactic Council's central command on Uxor, a daring mission that would require all of their skill and cunning to pull off. The risks were high, and the odds of success were slim, but they knew that they had no choice but to try. As they made their way through the heavily guarded corridors of the Council's stronghold, Samantha and Dax encountered the full might of the Alien Alliance's defenses. They were forced to navigate a labyrinth of security measures, each one more formidable than the last, as they drew ever closer to their ultimate goal. At every turn, they faced unexpected challenges, narrow escapes, and moments of sheer terror. The stakes were higher than they could have imagined, and the consequences of failure were unthinkable. But Samantha and Dax pressed on, driven by an unwavering determination to uncover the truth and put an end to the Galactic Council's reign of terror. As they delved deeper into the heart of the enemy's stronghold, they began to uncover a horrifying truth, one that revealed the true motivation behind the Council's crusade against humanity. The revelations were shattering, and Samantha and Dax knew that they were now facing an adversary far more ruthless and calculating than they could have ever imagined. With the fate of their species hanging in the balance, Samantha and Dax steeled themselves for the ultimate confrontation, knowing that the outcome would determine the course of human history for generations to come. As Samantha and Dax delved deeper into the heart of the Galactic Council's stronghold, the weight of their mission grew heavier with each passing moment. The revelations they had uncovered were nothing short of shattering, exposing the true, horrifying depths of the Council's depravity. Armed with this knowledge, they knew that they were facing an adversary far more ruthless and calculating than they could have ever imagined. The fate of humanity hung in the balance, and the outcome of their confrontation would echo through the ages. With their allies by their side, Samantha and Dax pressed forward, navigating the labyrinth of security measures and elite guards that stood between them and the Council's innermost sanctum. The risks were staggering, and the possibility of failure loomed ever present, but they refused to be deterred. As they drew closer to their objective, the air around them crackled with tension, the weight of their mission palpable in every step. Samantha could feel her heart pounding in her chest, her nerves strung taut, but her resolve remained unwavering. "We've come too far to turn back now," she whispered to Dax, her voice barely audible over the hum of the Council's machinery. "We have to see this through, no matter the cost." Dax nodded solemnly, his own eyes reflecting the same steely determination that burned within Samantha. They were well aware of the risks they were taking, the sacrifices they might have to make, but they were driven by an unyielding conviction, a belief that they could not allow the Galactic Council's reign of terror to continue unchallenged. As they reached the final checkpoint, Samantha and Dax steeled themselves for the confrontation that lay ahead. They knew that they would be facing the Council's most formidable defenders, but they were prepared to risk everything to expose the truth and secure a lasting peace. With a deep breath, they stepped through the final barrier, emerging into the sanctum of the Galactic Council's leadership. The chamber was a sprawling, opulent space, adorned with symbols of power and authority, but Samantha and Dax paid them no heed. Their eyes were fixed on the assembled council members, their expressions a mix of shock, anger, and, perhaps, a glimmer of fear. "So you have dared to venture into the heart of our domain," one of the council members intoned, his voice dripping with condescension. "You have come to beg for mercy, to plead for the lives of your pitiful race." Samantha stepped forward, her gaze unwavering, her voice clear and resolute. "We have come to expose your lies, your atrocities, and the true nature of your crusade against humanity," she declared. "The time for your reign of terror has come to an end." As the words left her lips, Samantha and Dax launched into a comprehensive recounting of the Council's crimes, laying bare the horrifying truth that they had uncovered. The council members listened, their expressions shifting from one of smug superiority to one of growing unease, and finally, open panic. Realizing that their carefully constructed facade had been shattered, the council members lashed out, their forces converging on Samantha and Dax in a desperate attempt to silence them. But the human allies, emboldened by the revelations, fought back with a fury that surprised even the mighty Galactic Council. In the ensuing chaos, Samantha and Dax pressed their advantage, using every ounce of their skill and cunning to overcome the Council's defenses. They were fighting for the future of their species, and they would not be deterred, no matter the cost. As the battle raged on, the fate of humanity hung in the balance, the outcome of this confrontation set to echo through the ages. Samantha and Dax knew that they had come too far to fail, that the stakes had never been higher. And with renewed determination, they pressed on, resolved to see this through to the bitter end. The battle within the heart of the Galactic Council's stronghold raged on, a clash of wills and determination that threatened to shake the very foundations of the galaxy. Samantha and Dax, alongside their ragtag band of human allies, fought with a ferocity born of unwavering conviction, their every move driven by a singular purpose: to expose the Council's horrific crimes and secure a lasting peace for their people. As the Council's elite defenders converged upon them, Samantha and Dax remained steadfast, their skills and tactics honed by the trials they had endured. They fought with a precision and coordination that belied the overwhelming odds they faced, their actions fueled by a righteous fury that refused to be extinguished. In the chaos of the battle, Samantha caught a glimpse of the council members, their expressions a mix of fear and desperation as they watched their carefully constructed facade crumble before their eyes. She knew that this was their moment, the chance they had been seeking to shatter the council's oppressive hold over humanity once and for all. With renewed vigor, Samantha and Dax pressed their advantage, their allies providing the support and cover they needed to push ever deeper into the heart of the council's stronghold. The struggle was fierce, with both sides unwilling to concede an inch, but Samantha and Dax refused to be deterred, their determination fueling their every action. As the battle raged on, the very foundations of the Galactic Council's power began to tremble, the weight of their own deceptions and atrocities finally catching up to them. Samantha and Dax, seizing this moment of vulnerability, unleashed a final, devastating assault, laying bare the Council's crimes and shattering their illusion of invincibility. In the aftermath, as the dust settled and the Council's forces lay defeated, Samantha stood amidst the ruins, her gaze sweeping across the faces of her fellow human survivors. The loss and devastation they had endured was palpable, the scars of the conflict still fresh and raw, but there was a newfound sense of resolve in their eyes, a determination to rebuild, to forge a future on their own terms. Turning to Dax, Samantha saw the weight of their journey reflected in his weathered features. The two of them had come so far, sacrificed so much, and now they stood on the precipice of a new era, one in which humanity would no longer be beholden to the whims of the Galactic Council. "It's over," Samantha said, her voice tinged with a mixture of relief and sorrow. "We've won, but at such a terrible cost." Dax nodded, his own eyes glistening with unshed tears. "We've learned the true price of freedom. Now it's up to us to ensure that the sacrifices made here were not in vain." Samantha took a deep breath, her gaze moving from Dax to the gathering crowd of human survivors. In their eyes, she saw a spark of hope, a newfound determination to forge their own path in the vast expanse of the cosmos. And in that moment, Samantha knew that the future of humanity was theirs to shape, a future that would be forged in the fires of adversity and tempered by the lessons of the past. "We will rebuild," she declared, her voice ringing with conviction. "We will rise from the ashes of this conflict, stronger and more united than ever before. And we will forge a new destiny, one that will echo through the ages." As the words left her lips, a thunderous cheer rose from the crowd, a testament to the resilience and indomitable spirit of the human race. And Samantha, with Dax by her side, turned her gaze towards the stars, ready to lead her people into a bold new era, one that would redefine the very balance of power in the galaxy.